Good afternoon. We have with us Mr. Janak Nabar, CEO, CTIER, on National Chemistry Day. They have released a report called Industry in India Followers or Leaders. Good afternoon, Janak.
Good afternoon, Prashant.
Would you talk about the findings of this report and its ramification to Indian companies?
Sure. So we, in this report, we've tried to analyze what the top R&D spenders in India are currently doing in terms of not just investments, but even in terms of output, like patents. We've looked at what kind of export share in their revenues are they generating. And what we find is that across the 10 sectors that we've looked at, which include the chemicals industry, of course, pharmaceuticals, automobiles, software being some of them, we find that Indian firms are largely profitable by global standards. We just don't spend enough on R&D. Specifically in the chemical sector, if we look at it, you find that we are in fact a little more profitable. The top R&D spenders in India are far more profitable than the global counterparts. So in terms of profitability, it's almost 16% profit as a ratio of sales for Indian chemical companies for the large spenders. But in globally, it's about 7 to 8%. Whereas if you look at the R&D as a percent of profitability spend, you find that global companies spend almost 45 to 50% of that towards R&D, whereas in India, it's only about 7%. By global standards, the R&D intensity of chemical companies is fairly low. And this is something which we've tried to advocate, that if India needs to really move up in terms of its technological prowess, we would need to do this across sectors. And chemistry, of course, is one of the key sectors that we're talking about today.
So, what are the findings with respect to the chemical sector, and how do you compare it with the pharma sector?
So broadly, what the key takeaways from the overall report, which obviously have ramifications for even the pharmaceutical sector and the chemical sector, is that there are three broad trends currently underway when it comes to R&D. One is that there's a definite blurring of industry boundaries. What this means is that the competition that companies are going to face are not just from their traditional sectors, but you're also likely to see opportunities in other sectors where chemistry can play a role. You're seeing sustainability as a big driver of research, and you're also seeing the adoption of digital technologies which are enhancing both the operational efficiency of companies, but also in their R&D capabilities. So the use of AI that's gradually coming in. So these are the three main trends that we're seeing from a research perspective. Now, specifically for the chemistry industry, what we are seeing is that clearly the blurring of boundaries, you have examples of global chemical companies that are looking at enhanced plant varieties using biotechnology kind of research areas. You're seeing adoption of digital technologies for predictive analytics. So if you're looking at enhanced crop protection, improved plant varieties, maybe understanding soil conditions, or even working with the lot of data that these companies have generated over the year, how to use it more effectively, even for understanding consumer preferences, for example.
How do you compare the chemical sector vis-a-vis global versus India, and how is the R&D spend? Is there a wide gap, and how it can be minimized?
So for sure, one is that if you look at the global R&D spenders, there is a list that we typically track, which is the top 2,500 spenders on R&D across sectors. In that, countries like the US and China would have up to 800 to 600 companies across different sectors. India has about 24 in that list, of which maybe just one or two are from the chemical industry. So clearly, we're not large spenders on the whole, but even within chemistry or the chemical industry, where we don't have any large global players. Having said that, the potential is there in certain areas to lead. We're not really looking outside. We're very domestic focused, which is a big difference. You asked me, how does it compare to the pharma companies, for example? Pharma has a higher share of exports as a percentage of sales, whereas in the chemical industry, it's just about 33%. So I think the opportunity for the chemical industry is really to think global and increase their competitiveness through R&D and innovation spending, and not just on price sensitivity.
And how do you see use of technology like AI and and other technologies which will help in giving chemical sector an edge with respect to sustainable and green products?
Sure. So I think it's also defining those grand projects and the large areas of research. AI, of course, as we gave examples, can improve with the kind of data and predictive analytics that can help in the research. But more importantly, I would say defining what are the next generation of technologies that the world is seeking. Say, for example, when it comes to food security, or when it comes to even batteries and alternate batteries. Now, to give you an example, India is one of the largest producers of aluminium. It's one of the largest in terms of zinc and also obviously sodium. So the idea of like looking and exploring at alternate batteries, given the opportunities and the industrial base that we have in the chemical industry, I think this is a huge opportunity for India, which perhaps needs a sort of convergence of some of the large companies coming together and saying, can we take this up as a challenge? And I think it will really require some policy push to support some of the big players, and even some of the, getting some of the smaller players aligned in these newer, greener, sustainable technologies.
What we are looking at, that everybody is working in isolation, whether it is academia or whether it is the industry, and we do not see uh, much collaboration between the two as we see in the West. So, how do you see, or what will help in giving a push so that both of them work together?
So there are some newer initiatives which the government has announced. There's a $12 billion research development innovation fund, 1 lakh crore fund that they've announced. There's the Anusandhan National Research Foundation, which is looking for industry participation along with some support from the government. Now, these are initiatives which are put in place. It's up to individual companies and industries to really pick the areas that perhaps they should focus on and seek this larger pool of funding. So that's one thing for sure that we should try and take advantage of.
Do you see academia moving from just patent publishing or paper publishing to real industry or coming up with solutions related to the industry?
So, one of the things which we as a center have been trying to advocate for is greater funding of research within the higher education sector. So, the reason for that is that, we've this prime example of the University Department of Chemical Technology, or the Institute for Chemical Technology, where many of the graduates from there have become the backbone of the chemical industry, right? And that's an example which needs to be emulated across sectors. If you look at the output there, you could look at the publications that have come out, but you look at the students who have come out. And that's largely because this was a research-driven institution that was committed to industry. So I feel that, it really depends on the leadership, it depends on individual institutions. But if there is that research focus and push to get more funding into the higher education system, we will have the talent that is really needed to cater to industry.
The two more issues. One is the talent gap between India and global, and focused on the chemical sector, and also on the diversity part. How do we take care of these two?
Right. So one is what we have found in our research, whether in this report or independently, like we find that Indian companies, especially in the chemical industry, do hire for R&D purposes. You have a higher share of masters and PhD students, but when you're looking at job adverts, they're still looking at particular skills in core competencies. Global firms are looking at multidisciplinary talent. So they're looking at hiring psychologists who understand customer preferences within the R&D team. They're looking at people who understand policies and regulations that can drive sustainability within the R&D team, so that when you're brainstorming around a product, there is an expert there who understands the technical aspects, but also understands the rules and regulations of, say, countries that you may want to export to. So what we've tried to do through this report is to really advocate for building the multidisciplinarity, which means that you're widening that pool of talent, within the R&D setup of a company. Ultimately, what we want is for R&D to be the engine of growth for every company, and that means not just sticking to your core skills, but really looking at diversity, both in terms of talent, in terms of, I would say, gender diversity. This is something which we have noticed that when it comes to higher education, we have a very good, close to gender parity in the natural sciences, maybe not so much in the technology areas, but there's a sharp drop off in women researchers. So if one of the things we try to look at is, can you look at more flexible work roles? So work from home, obviously, during COVID, we did see this flexibility coming in, and it was forced upon us. But is this something which could be looked at, especially when it's not a lab requirement? So can you hire someone who can track regulations, but need not be sitting physically in your position, in your laboratory, but could be sitting at home and working on this, both for both genders, that is, increasing that work flexibility. But these are areas which are being explored globally. I think we have to think strategically of how we're losing out that potential of human capital when women researchers drop out of the workforce.